Mr. Rajkumar, you're still living in illusion. Mr. Speaker, the whole Essequibo, every sector is bleeding. We are going back to the Cinderella stages. And let me remind you, Honorable Member, Mr. Rajkumar. Mr. Speaker, let it be known to you that the Honorable Dr. Madio is highly qualified as a doctor. In Region 2, the masses got specialized services from Dr. Madio tenure in Region 2 for many years. We recognize his work and we now condemn your loquacious behavior in remarks towards Dr. Madio. I left you to consume the nicotine from your cigar butts. Continue to poison your health with nicotine. Honorable Member John Adams, it will be too late for Dr. Madio to assist you. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister, Housing Minister, spoke about glaucoma, referring to a blistering presentation by Honorable Member Evan Pearson. I'm saying that it was an act of deliberate intrepidity by the Honorable Minister. Those who have eyes to see, let them see. And those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Like Honorable Member Pearson, but those who are suffering from cornucopia and cause them to build three-wall houses need carbonation size to see their degradatory actions. That's off to the Honorable Member Yvonne Pearson. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member Rupert Rupenrein spoke about the mythical El Dorado, and in another 5 years in government, achievements would be in abundance, Mr. Speaker, with the present destruction of the masses of this country by this APNU, AFC. I am certain that we would end up with a bunch of mythical beasts as ministers in Guyana. Honorable Member Rupert Rupenrein, Honorable Member, indeed, education is the key for opening any door of opportunity. But where are the jobs after graduation? Honorable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let me go into the budget proper. Mr. Speaker, and all other members on both sides of this honorable House, and of course, visitors and invitees, let me reflect for a few seconds the passing of one of our young, brilliant brains from Region 2 and CARICOM, who passed away not so long ago while pursuing medical studies in the United States of America, but her demise took place in Puerto Rico. She will long be remembered for her distinctive achievements at the CXC examination, topping the Caribbean countries. Mr. Speaker, let me also reflect for a few seconds the passing of Mr. Bush, a past president of the United States of America, who passed away a few days ago at the age of 94 years. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Bush was one of the first presidents at the United Nations General Assembly to embrace the late Dr. Chedi Jagan's presentation at the UN on the world human global order. May all three I refer to continue to rest in peace. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn my attention to the Honorable Finance Minister and the presentation of his budget for 2019. Honorable Finance Minister, it's the longest budget I was told ever read in this Parliament by any finance minister. But Honorable Finance Minister, you're huge, you're very strong, and you, Honorable Minister, reminds me of a president of the USA who does things by what his gut tells him and not his brains or his giziums. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Finance Minister can bring a 6-hour budget or a 4 or 5-hour budget to this Parliament. But, Mr. Speaker, it's what's in the package. This budget is a hopeless budget, poor of contents. And, Mr. Speaker, this budget is nothing else but an optical illusion presented in this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, to debate this budget, one must have to be Houdini or derived from a illusionistic background. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Finance Minister, your reason, as mentioned, to present your budget so early is to have your managers give your managers enough time to expedite their projects. Well, Mr. Speaker, as I speak here, only about 60% of Region 2 monies have been spent. Honorable Finance Minister, your attempt to justify an early budget is so wrong. Mr. Speaker, the masses out there are crying foul to this December budget debate of this budget in Christmas season. Honorable Finance Minister, you are creating a terrible traffic congestion, not only in Georgetown, but also surroundings. I call on the Commissioner of Police and the Traffic Chief to write this I don't care government. Let them be aware of the inconvenience this December debate causes to Guyanese and visitors from overseas. Mr. Speaker, this I don't care government do not understand the magnanimity of getting to places in time. And sometimes the masses can left at the mercy of the robbers during traffic congestions. This December budget debate must stop, not another budget debate in December. Honorable Finance Minister, put the masses first. Mr. Speaker, as I listen to the budget presented by the Honorable Finance Minister, it sounded like the illusion for the departure. It sounded like the eulogy for the departure of this AFCAPNU government. I don't care government from office. Mr. Speaker, everything this I don't care government does is to cause an early departure to relinquish power to the PPPC so that Guyanese can live in peace, progress, and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, we heard from the Honorable Finance Minister that a green paper has been presented how the oil monies will be spent. Honorable Finance Minister, are you talking about managing future petroleum revenues and a sovereign wealth fund? Where are the expertise to advise this I don't care government about this green paper? Mr. Speaker, can one imagine in the 20th century this government took an expert in oil who worked in the oil sector, being in charge of this sector for 30 plus years in the biggest democracy in the world, USA, and placed this oil expert to work at EPA in charge. Mr. Speaker, that's not all. Another expert in environment is placed to head the oil industry. Mr. Speaker, I ask, why put the person who has so many experience in oil at EPA and the expert in EPA to manage oil? Well, Mr. Speaker, I am saying that this is nothing else but cornucopia by this I don't care government. I wonder what is this? I don't care government is hiding from this oil expert. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that this I don't care government is good at hiding. Mr. Speaker, I recommended the $18 million U.S. signing bonus that was hidden away in a private bank account of Guyana, in the Bank of Guyana, Mr. Speaker. I remembered the MOU that was signed with the Chinese was hidden away. Mr. Speaker, I remember the trip by several ministers to Exxon Mobil head office. What came out of that trip? Mr. Speaker, I always remember the 2% agreement between this I don't care government and Exxon Mobil and many others. That are too much to mention, were all hidden away. Mr. Speaker, I tend to agree with the World Bank and other organizations warning Guyana about oil sector corruption because, Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with a company, ExxonMobil, which is not honest, as shown in court papers in USA about lying to the American people about oil spills, cleanup, and, of course, a bunch of I don't care ministers with the get-rich-quick syndrome. Mr. Speaker, there can be no greater act of patriotism when to have a COI, Commission of Inquiry into the oil sector. Enough is enough than to have a COI inquiry into the oil sector. Enough is enough. Mr. Speaker, more than 90% of the countries in the world at some stage found themselves being ripped off by these huge oil companies, be it Nigeria, be it Guinea, be it Angola, or even Venezuela. Mr. Speaker, if the expert like NRGI is warning us, we must make sure this I don't care government take good warnings. Don't open your hands and beg for perks and deprive the masses of this country. Once again, Mr. Speaker, oil is precious, and Guyana must avoid simply mimicking other countries' local content policies and do gap analysis. Mr. Speaker, we must ensure that we do not lose our potentials to produce oil for another 200 years. We must stagger our oil production. Mr. Speaker, let me remind this I don't care government, those who intend to build a fortune illicitly on oil money, we have the anti-money laundering laws, plus drones and satellites are beaming in on you. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Attorney General, our judges, our magistrates must be able to perform their duties without fear, deprivation, interference, or threats from the AG's office. Let professionalism continue to be the motto of the judiciary and magistracy. There must be a hands-off approach by the Honorable Attorney General on the agencies. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Minister of Education, I asked of you to consider awarding the Warramuri Primary School with the secondary top, which did so well, topping all the secondary schools in Region 1 at the CXC examinations, although Warramuri entered these children who did so well through Muruka Secondary School. Once again, Honorable Minister of Education gave that school a big surprise so that the students can continue to excel. I thank you. Honorable Member Ali Kak and Honorable Member Gerald Lowe, the bureaucracy and the procedure that will cause our poor Amerindian brothers and sisters 3 weeks waiting on paperwork to complete before $20,000 can be given as a help to offset expenses during admittance to Georgetown Hospital is so wrong. Mr. Speaker, I condemn this rampant disregard for our Amerindian brothers and sisters. It is wrong. Our first people must not have to wait until the Honorable Minister of Finance pronounced or approved, which takes weeks. Mr. Speaker, I cogitate that all the transactions must take place at the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs. Stop this bureaucracy. Honorable Finance Minister.
Honorable Member, you have 5 minutes remaining.
If it is so, but put systems in place to stop it. Let our first people get what they deserve. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member, Mr. Ramjatan, about the means to eradicate serious crimes. Dogs and horses cannot do it. Honorable Member, as you continue to promulgate lives are lost, get your act together. Our policemen and women need better guns, and they must be paid their December salary in double. Give our police their extra 1 month salary in December. The PPPC did, and our military acknowledge us for our gesture. Mr. Speaker, crime everywhere. Honorable Agriculture Minister, why are you not getting it correct? Mr. Speaker, the agriculture sector is not living up to expectations. Gaisuko in turmoil. We are now witnessing a 20-gun salute for Gaisuko and sugar and other. And the PPPC, there is no other representation from this agriculture minister. And this, I don't care government, Mr. Speaker, I wonder where our agriculture sector is going. Nothing new. Huh? This? Yeah. Yes. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Attorney General, those law books are the property of Honorable Member Anil Nandalal. The President of the time has spoken. The law firm has spoken. But Honorable AG, you continue to portray that you are nothing else but a dreamer living in illusion of the past. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member Ifran Ali, and all of my other colleagues, the cases that Soku and this I don't care government has trumped up against you all are so weak and fragile. All of you will be vindicated. That's all to all of you, comrades. We from the PPP are fighters. We will never give up. Let them continue to purge. Victory is on our side. Come 2020, most of those members on that side of this honorable house would end up in civil hall for their deeds and dishonesty. Honorable Minister, your
remember you have 2 minutes left.
Your ideologies in your 2019 budget sounded like you are in a lost world in the 20th century. Honorable Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, it's a known fact that you have the Commonsburg Agreement signed with the APNU government. But what has happened? You continue to be marginalized. The head of the government left this country for several days. But instead of you were sweared in, you were victimized. There were no swearing in for you. You continue to be there, never to be sweared in. And pick. Mr. Speaker, finally for me, the Honorable Finance Minister, who continues to dream, eventually this budget that you have presented here is poisonous and distasteful for Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, this is a poisonous budget, and it must be headed over to the pesticide and poison board so that it can be exterminated, destroy it. It has no legs. I'll never support a budget like this. I thank you.